I know the insects weren't always there. Like, what the hell was going
Or
on?
are they? Are we really just host for a bunch of
Ooh,
bugs?
don't say that, man. I read this report once where there's thousands of little spiders inside of us. When we're sleeping, they crawling through our nose and our
Oh,
ears.
yeah.
I don't want to think
You're like,
about
never
it. I'm all set.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another edition of movie reviews. Only this is going to be a bonus episode. This is going out on Halloween. So this is technically an outside of my normal. The series normally goes out on Saturdays, but I really wanted to talk about this movie before Halloween. And so I decided, since I don't have any content going out on Halloween, this is my Halloween episode.
You couldn't
Yay!
have picked a better movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I am joined by Ricky Grimes from Horror Fiend TV. And we're both big fans of the movie we are talking today, which is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, super excited about this one. Let's see. I'm going to read some stuff about it really quick. What year was this? 82. This came out in 82. Okay.
82. Wow. Older than I thought. I mean, yeah, it is older than I thought.
It's older than I thought too. I actually thought it was later than that. Okay.
Wow.
So 5.1 out of 10 on IMDb, 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, 62% on Google. Let's see, the Rotten Tomatoes audience score. Oh, 28%.
This is like the troll of the Halloween franchise.
Oh, I know. I know. I don't feel like there's ever any middle ground. People either love this one or they hated it. Like, it's just very
Yep. It's polarizing.
Yeah, it is. Kids all over America want Silver Shamrock Mask for Halloween. Dr. Daniel Chalice seeks to uncover a plot by Silver Shamrock owner Connell Cochran. That's better. That doesn't
Cochran! Fuck you! I love that guy.
Yeah, so what's your score for this one out of 10?
Out of 10? Oh, okay. This is a 9 for me.
9. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a 9 for me also. I love this movie.
Yeah.
I forget that you guys do out of 5. I always
yeah.
forget to remind you that it's out of 10, but
It's
yeah,
okay.
This is a 9 for me too.
Yeah, this movie is this is a perfect Halloween film in both name and tone for me.
Yeah.
This feels like a Halloween, not Halloween the franchise, but like a Halloween movie.
Just the season.
Yes,
the season. Yes. Yeah, I agree. I revisited this after I saw Halloween Ends for a lot of reasons, but I'm going to try really hard to stay away from that rabbit hole. I went back and watched it for a lot of reasons. After I saw Halloween Ends, I was like, I'm going to rewatch it. And then that was when I was like, hey, do you want to review this? Because I knew we both had love for it. So I was you know what? I think, and it's hard to, there's not just like one thing I really like about this film. I really like everything about it. I love the story, the characters, the atmosphere, the small town conspiracy stuff, like
I love it,
the effects, the drama. Like, I love all of it. Like, it just goes together like really, really well. And this whole like corporate level sinister plan on Halloween. I don't know. I just really love like all of that like stuff. It just checks a bunch of boxes for me. And I really like it a lot.
Sinister is a perfect word to describe what was happening in this film.
Yeah.
I saw it again recently too, after you had told me to come on, just again for a refresher. Yeah. And, oh man, I love it more and more every time I watch it. Especially like you mentioned, after watching Halloween Ends, going back with that in the back of your mind.
It just has a different,
Yeah, exactly. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's funny because this was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, who was a longtime John Carpenter collaborator. But it feels like a Carpenter film in the way he directed it. I mean, a large part of that is due to Carpenter scored the film, produced it. I think did he write this film? Ooh, I'll have to check on that. You got
that one. I don't know.
Okay. But it just feels like it was a Carpenter movie through and through. I just love his style, and this film is perfect in that regard.
Yeah, and I think it also has like it was written by Tommy Lee Wallace and John Carpenter.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
I think Yeah, it is one of those things, like, I don't like, there's a lot of movies that take place around Halloween that feel very Halloween, but there's just something different about this one,
Something
like,
different.
and it's like when the little, like, and this isn't like a spoiler. This is like, I think most people know. Of course, this is a really old movie, but the whole, like, when the commercials come up and they're doing the countdown, like the whole movie, you're just like amped about
Yeah.
like about it getting closer and closer to Halloween. You're like, oh, 3 more days. Like,
And the thing with that is too, in this film is Halloween 1 and
mhm.
2, that has a Carpenter music, the classic
Yeah.
Carpenter Halloween theme. But this one cemented itself in horror history with that jingle. You were correct. That
Yeah.
commercial, that music just sticks with you even after you finish watching the movie.
Long after you watch the movie. Yeah.
And what I'd noticed this time around, the Tom Atkins character, Dan,
Mhm.
he kept running into that. No matter where he was at, that jingle kept
It was like it
playing.
followed him.
Yes, I
It was
never
on the
really caught on to
radio, it
that.
was in the car, it was on the
Everywhere,
yeah.
everywhere. He was by the end of the movie, I was like, "Oh my god, it's fucking commercial again!" Like it was driving him insane. And
It was.
I loved it. It's so
He's like,
awesome.
"I can't, I'm so sick of it." He, like, turns the radio off. Yeah. Yeah.
Good shit.
It's good. I think it's everything about the film from start to finish is very daunting. Like, it's very like like it's just got this creepy edge to it from like just the very beginning. And then
Yeah.
it's like there's always this something lingering to catch
Yes.
up to this to our main characters. Like,
Yes.
there's just always something there, whether it's meeting somebody new or something weird they found out, or that commercial, or just everything is like, as it just keeps going, it's just these little pieces of like discomfort throughout the whole thing of like, what is this leading to? Where
Yeah.
is this going? And I just really liked it. And I like, first of all, consumerism is like, this is like almost 100% like a statement on the world of being a consumer because of how hyped this was. I mean, the whole point is, you had to wear your mask and you get it.
Mhm.
And then at whatever time it was, like 8 or 9 or
8 o'clock.
whatever time
Yeah.
it was,
What
you had to be in front of your TV for the
mhm.
big giveaway. And it
Big
was like this
giveaway. Yeah.
huge company with these really popular masks. And of course, everyone's going to make sure they're home on time to make sure they're in front of their TV for this giveaway thing. And I just loved like all of that. This angle of like manipulation, using kids, and like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's all very, like I said, very sinister, very creepy. And like, even though it's obviously dives into like some things that are not necessarily like real life, it felt very real.
Yeah.
Like,
It could happen. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. 100% with that. You go
yeah,
into this small town and everyone's
yeah.
looking at you weird, and we all everyone in their point of their life went to a place, whether it's a new city or town, and you felt
Uh-huh.
out of place. You felt
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and you feel like everyone's looking at you, and you
Mhm.
get that feeling here. And what I loved about this from the very beginning of the movie, it starts off with with one character.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard to talk without spoilers, but
Well,
it could
yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna
we
give
can
away the film, but it starts off with one character making his way to the hospital, but you don't
mhm.
know why. You don't know why. You don't know why he's running. You don't know who's chasing him. You have no
Right.
idea what's going on. Which that was lifted from Assault on Precinct 13, another Carpenter classic. Started the exact same way.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So and so immediately you're like, holy shit, you're glued because you want to know
What
who's
is going
chasing him,
on?
what's going on.
Yeah.
He's got this mask, he doesn't let it go. He keeps just muttering, they're gonna kill us all. Who's gonna kill us? What's with the mask? So immediately from the get-go, you're hooked.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's very engaging. I don't think it has very many or any lulls at all. I think it's very consistently engaging. Like, you're really into it, I think, from start to finish. Um yeah, we can jump into spoilers. I mean, I think we've said, pretty
Yeah,
much all we could without ruining anything, unless
right,
there's
right.
anything you wanted to add that you just
No,
loved.
no, just
Yeah.
like you mentioned, the film keeps you. There's no lull. Which this is
Mm-mm.
what I love about movies from the '80s. Is
Mhm.
now a movie now it has this weird obligatory. It has to be an hour 45 minutes or 2 hours. That adds filler and all that stuff.
And
This
stuff you
film,
don't care about.
perfect hour and a half. There's no filler here
Yes.
whatsoever. It's everything goes from point A to point B to C
Yep.
D. It just keeps going. There's no
Yep.
time you're like, all right, I'm bored. No, you're like, wait, what's going on? What's I don't say.
Yeah. And even
Yeah,
and I will say this too, like, I think even the slower moments, that's more of just like the detective stuff. Like, because then it's like you get comfortable with this concept of looking for answers, and then something else crazy happens. And then
yeah,
you're like, it's like a roller coaster, but never like too low. Like you just never get to a point where you're like, okay, let's keep it moving. Like it does that on its own. Like, yeah,
I
it's
agree.
really well done in
I
that way.
agree. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, we can jump into spoilers. We can just talk about whatever. If you have not seen Season of the Witch, or it's been a while since you've seen it, you should rewatch it,
Watch
especially
it again.
if you just watched Halloween Ends. Highly recommend a revisit. Yeah.
And surprisingly, it ages pretty well too.
Oh my God, it does.
I watched it again, like I mentioned. I forgot how gory this film
It's
was.
very
Like,
gory.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, what
Yeah.
the hell? Like,
Yeah. And I think, and to your point, like all of that still holds up. It doesn't look, I mean, obviously, like, that it's 80s, but
yeah,
it's not something where you're like, ugh, that's
because it's
obviously the
practical. Like
80s.
when you see something like when there's like either it's somebody getting their hair ripped off or somebody getting their face pushed in, you could tell it's prosthetics and dummies and stuff.
But
But
it looks so
it
good
looks
though.
so good, man. I love it. It's so
No,
cool.
for real. Yeah, I
It's so
agree.
cool.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump into spoilers. If you made it
Let's
this
do
far
it.
in the episode and you have not seen this or you don't remember it, go watch it again. I watched it on Peacock.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I
I
saw it
guess
again on
that's
Peacock.
where, yeah, I guess because that's where
It's
the
sad.
new.
I own this film, but everything's locked up in like storage and bins and all that
Yeah,
stuff. So
I don't have a physical media of this one, so
yeah,
I watched it on Peacock. But that's where you can watch it if you're interested.
absolutely.
All right, so let's jump into spoilers. Okay, so you know what I forgot about talking about, like forgetting the gore, because it's been a minute since I've seen it
Yeah,
until
same.
this recent time, was when she picks up the pin off the floor. Okay, and then she gets like shot in the face. And then I was like, I remembered that part, but I did not remember the showing of her face after that.
And it lingered for a
It
long
lingered.
time. That's what I
Yeah.
forgot. I'm like, damn, because you see all the details in her mouth and her teeth, and like
Oh my
then
God.
that giant beetle just comes crawling at
Just
her.
coming out. Like, what in the world?
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, it was so good, and it all looked really good,
Yeah,
and you're just, like, in this place of, almost, like, comfort, because like, this part is, like, winding down, it's nighttime, we've got, like, our sex in this room, and, like, this woman who's, like, talking about the thing from the mask coming off, and she's, like, just there by herself, and you're just
yeah,
kind of in, like, wind down mode with her, and
yeah,
then she does that, like, of all the things to do before you go, so she, like, gets up, goes to get it, and
yeah.
then it's just, like, this huge thing that happens, and all of that after it looked so good. Like even now, I just thought it looked so good.
What did Cochran say? Misfire.
That's right. Oh, when they yeah, because they come in. Oh my God,
What
yeah.
happened? Oh, misfire, sir.
He's a train wreck of a human being, but he is very funny. Some of the things he
Yeah.
says are so awful, you can't help but like smirk.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Like the character, like it has Tom Atkins is the main character in this.
Mhm.
I love the actor. He's in so many Carpenter films. He was in
Yeah.
Creepshow. He's all
Yep.
over the place during the 80s. He's like all over.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a Carpenter produced film, so it's got a lot of the Carpenter fans favorites. So one thing with Carpenter, even you see Dan, his wife was played by the oh Jesus Christ. Now that I'm here, the name escapes me. Figures. She was in Halloween. She played Laurie's best friend. What was her name in the original
Oh
Halloween?
my God, I'm drawing. I know.
Come on.
Hell.
She's in every Carpenter movie.
I know.
Oh my God. Nancy Loomis. That was her name. But she changed her name to Nancy Keys because she got married. So
Nancy. Yeah.
Yeah. So she pops up. I'm like, oh yeah, you know it's a Carpenter film. You know it's a Carpenter film when you see her. So I like that.
Yeah, I think it's so funny because like he's like you don't really get like a full picture of like why they have like their like feuding relationship or whatever, but she becomes so obnoxious. Like later he's like trying to tell her like, bitch, look. Like there's this really crazy stuff. I mean, granted, he's also like at a hotel like hooking up with somebody he just met, but like also
Then he says, wait, how old are you? Like after they fucking
it's just she's like old enough and you're just like
yeah, I'm older than what I look.
That's so true. Oh God. But she's like, yeah, I there's quite a few parts like that that made me laugh. But the wife becomes like so obnoxious. He's like, take them away from the TV. And she's like, no, I'm gonna yell at you instead. And she's like arguing with him. And he's like, come on.
What I like about the relationship is they tell you they have issues, and I think it stems from alcohol abuse because mentioned alcohol. He went to the bar to drink, but he never showed it within the film, so they downplayed it. But then he calls later on, like after he fucking like near the end of the film, yo, throw the mask away, don't put the mask on, you know. And he's like, no, I'm not drunk. No, I'm not drunk. I don't know why I find that so funny, man.
That is funny. Yeah, she is just so obnoxious because, like, like
obnoxious.
Again, we don't get a lot of history, but she just every time they're interacting, she's like screaming at him through the phone.
Through the phone, you don't see it, but you hear it through the phone. That's what's the best part.
Yeah.
You just hear it right there.
Every second they're on it's like an argument because she's so over his shit. She's like, I don't, and so like she immediately goes to that place like every time he calls, and it's just really funny. Like it was so obnoxious because I'm like, he's trying to like warn her to save their kids, and she's like not listening at all. She's just
even when he brought home the little cheap Walgreens face mask, the old Ben Cooper mask, and she's like, and she buys him the Silver Shamrock mask.
Yeah.
Once again, you're behind, or whatever the line she said. Like, come on.
Yeah, basically like you're the worst dad.
And he's a doctor. I don't understand why she gets upset when he gets a call to go into.
Yeah.
And come on, he's got to save some lives. We can't be upset with.
Well, and my assumption based on the age of their kids is it's not like she didn't know he was a doctor before they had kids. I would assume based on their ages.
Yes, you're right. The kids are young. Yep.
So it is kind of an interesting dynamic, and then it's so polar opposite to his reaction or his interaction with the daughter. What's her name? The other main character.
Ellie, right?
Ellie. Yeah. So she and she's funny because she's like sitting there. She's like, "Where would you like to sleep?" And he's like, "That's a stupid question."
He was trying to I'll go outside. I'll sleep in the car. He's
trying to be polite. Yeah,
I'd rather sleep on the car than on the floor. Of course, he doesn't want to sleep in the car, man.
Yeah, he's like, her dad just died. Let me just be polite, And then she's just like, no, all that's out the door.
All that's out the door, man. That's funny.
Yeah. So I think the first time we meet Cochran, is that when the lady at the hotel gets shot in the face? That's the first time,
physically,
right?
Yes, when they first lay eyes on him, they meet together. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, and he's like a man in black kind of character. He like shows up, sweeps away the problem, like makes it disappear, and comes up with all these excuses.
Good, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, he cleans up. Yeah, he cleaned up good on that. He's like this figure where you keep hearing about him. Everyone in town knows about him. They worship the guy. So when you see him, you're like, all right, there's more to this guy than meets the eye because something ain't right here.
Yeah, and there's something I learned about recently that I didn't know anything about, which is I forget exactly what they're called. There are literal towns like this though, where whatever company, it's like they're like company towns or something like that.
Yeah.
Where they literally is like this company, whatever company it is at the time, has this little town, and everyone who works in the town or lives in the town works for this company, and this company is like they make it so you almost can never leave because the way they pay you is like in for lack of a better term, like company dollars, right? So like it goes back into the company over like in this, and that's a real thing. Like that's not some corporate made up bullshit story. Like that's real. And it so hits on a lot of this because you're talking about like this company that like controls this town because it's like they have like the curfew.
Oh yes.
He's curfew. Like the point of authority for what? Like why?
And
why is he
cameras everywhere and everyone's aware of it?
Yes. And I thought it was so crazy because I literally, like Mike was telling me about this, I think on the drive from Mothman, like we were coming home from Mothman and he's like telling me about these towns like this. And I'm like, that sounds dreadful. And I wasn't even making the connection to this, but as soon as I rewatched it, I was like, oh my God, like these are like real towns like this. And so they make it where like, you just have to get used to the way that they tell you to live because you can't leave and go somewhere else. But anyway, it really made me feel for these people because it's like this salesman that goes in there, like all hunky dory, like, oh, like I'm the best salesman. And
buddy,
I'm just like, what the fuck? I don't know. Like, it's just very interesting, like knowing about that now and seeing how this town is. It's like, that's actually not too far off base.
And everyone is not glued into what's going on. They're not.
No.
Because you mentioned the mask, the store clerk who went to get a replenishment for masks and pretty much found out their dirty secret and he was taken out for it. So he didn't know. He didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So when I first saw it, when I saw it again, I the guy they ran into the first time, who was the hotel guy, the gas station clerk who gave him the room.
Oh yeah,
That guy he must have been in on it. What do you think? Like that
he's
guy,
creepy.
he's
Yeah,
yeah. He was like, oh, Cochran. He was all worshiping him when he came in and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's
eerily so.
yes, and the way everyone just stare like mindless beings, and that comes into play later, obviously. But
Yeah, and yeah, and you do have to like it does make you pick out like certain characters as far as like their sense of loyalty to Cochrane versus like humanity. Like
yeah,
because
yeah,
it is very much like because you're right, the guy is very like like you said, worship is like perfect. He's like
he's
very
charismatic.
like he
So
speaks of him like he's a
mhm,
god. Like he's
yes,
done all of this for this town and blah blah blah, you know. Yeah,
yeah, that's exactly yeah.
that's a good point.
Cochrane. I mean, could you live in a town like that, wherever you go, that you got eyes and ears on you? Like that's insane.
I mean, I think it's not too far off base from where we live in now, but I think it's feels
Yeah,
different because it's in the hands
yeah,
of the individual
you're
versus
right.
like someone in power. No, I couldn't. Like I yeah, no. It's a very like I even so like the town I grew up in isn't even like this level of small town, but it is still kind of a small town. I hated it. I hated small town living. Like it just was not it was not something that like I knew I wanted because it just has such a weird feeling to
Mm.
it. Like when everybody knows you, everyone knows about you, like it's just too much. And that's kind of how like that's why these things are so unsettling because I've like not lived to the like that exact life obviously because like there were cameras everywhere I walked but it's just a very weird sense of like you have these people in the town and like everyone knows who they are and they have this status and like you know I don't know it's like all too real so it makes it like even creepier you know.
Yeah, oh, that's what makes the movie creeper. It's just there's no monsters in this movie whatsoever, nothing like that. It's just the people, and especially like
Mm-hmm.
the people working for Cochrane, they're just so stoic and like you want to know what the hell is going on with these people. Why don't they have no emotions? And again, that
They're
plays
weird,
all the
yeah.
way into the very end of the film, so it keeps you glued in. Like when you
Yeah.
first saw this film, do you remember you questioning what was up with these guys at all?
I so the first time I saw it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I do remember wondering if they were robots.
Right. Oh, okay. So I was young when I saw, so I didn't even think about that. So
But I think that's I think that's just because like I grew up in a sci-fi house. Like
cool.
I by the time I saw this, I had seen so many other because like I wasn't born until 88. So I didn't see this until much later in
In
life.
the
But
90s,
like
yeah.
I don't think that like I just had seen so many things about people that turn out to actually be other things that this like I knew there was something up, but I definitely didn't think like weird like goop and like I didn't think like that. I just thought like
Yeah.
robots, but it was a
Interesting
little
because
different.
that's what I love about the film. Because it's a Halloween movie, and I wish the backlash from Michael didn't cause 4 or 5 say, to be
Mhm.
Michael Myers movies. I hated all those movies. I don't care for any of them. If it stayed like this, where every year was a new Halloween film, but it was different. Like look at the contrast between this and the Michael stories. They feel similar, but they're not. Like this has witches, warlocks, whatever robots. Like the sci-fi in this
It's got
film,
science fiction in it,
yes,
yeah.
it has science fiction built in.
Mhm.
It's a strength, but it's also my negative, which I'll get into later if you want to get into that, like the why it's not a complete perfect film. But
Yeah.
overall, I just love the blending of the two genres right there. It's perfect. I think
Yeah,
it
it's
worked really
really
well.
well done.
Oh, absolutely.
Because at the heart of it, it is just a human being. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, you know, it's and that's always like scary
Yeah.
when the monsters are people. It always adds this level of like discomfort because, you know, there are people who would do, you know, if they could do things like this. You know,
Yeah.
like I do know that the first time I saw the sales guy's son like when he sits down, he puts the mask on, he sits in front of the TV, and like that whole scene plays out. I
Yes.
remember just being like blown
Wow. I
away. I was
know.
like,
Oh,
what the
yeah.
hell?
You saw the
Um,
snakes and all the insects and all that. What
and it
the
was like
hell?
decomposition, like this
Mm.
very weird, like moving into, I don't know, like it was just very like,
No
ooh,
computer effects. Just all practical. The
all
way the mask
practical.
is just crumbled upon and the on the user's face. Like, I loved it. So
It's
good.
good.
Yeah, it's good. It's creepy. It's creepy. Even like the when you first saw the first suited guy walk into the hospital
Mhm.
and goes to the guy that they want to shut up, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The way he killed him, I've even to this day I have never seen a death like that. When he just slowly just grabs his fingers and just pokes it into the guy's skull. He's twisting and twisting, and then he just breaks the guy's skull with it, like through his eye sockets. And the way they showed it, again, it was a dummy, but the sound and everything, you don't even to this day, you don't get gore that visceral. Again, it's tame compared to what you see now, but the fact that it looks so real when it was
I know what you mean, though. Yeah. Well, and like you said earlier, it all still holds up really well. I mean, I still went like this when that scene happened. I was like, oh, like this. And it's, you know, when you think about like after you've like already seen it and you know like everything that happens and then you revisit, it's always interesting the things that you think about afterwards, because like there's a lot of clues as to what's going on with the people who work for Cochran, because you know there's the girl that's helping the doctor, and she's like, look, she's like I'm finding all of these like weird parts, and she but I remember not really putting it all together. Like I'm hearing her say these things, but in my head I'm thinking conspiracy, like they pulled him out of the car and he wasn't actually in the car. I wasn't thinking any of that. And then as a second, you know, you go back and you watch it later, you're like, oh shit, there's like all these clues as like what was going on even way before, but they're done so subtly and they're put in between all of these other bigger things that you don't harp on it enough to make it predictable. Like it still took, you know, it playing out before you realize everything that's going on.
It's a film that's grounded in reality as much as possible without going too over the top with it, because like we're talking about the robots and like it's witchcraft at the heart of the film, but like robots, like what the hell, like when do you get that, especially like in the early 80s like what I guess back then. I mean, Halloween was still 82. Wow, that is early, because 79 or 78. What was Halloween? 78? 78. So Halloween 2, I would put that around 80, then 82. Okay, so that makes more sense.
But and it's just so drastically different from the Michael Myers.
That's what I loved about it. And I love the fact that Michael Myers was in this film technically on the TV when he was watching the commercials.
The movie.
And I loved, all right, I got to talk about this scene, Angel. This is the scene where he's strapped to the chair and Cochran puts the TV in front of him, puts the Silver Shamrock mask on, the skeleton one, and he puts the TV on to give him, again, Halloween. So when Cochran does his little monologue, and then he says, oh, happy Halloween. And then you hear the Halloween music. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So good.
So good. And what I love this, and this is so cheesy when you think about it. When he's strapped, mind you, the guy's strapped down, he breaks out, he cuts it. He takes the mask off, and he's pretty much like this, right? The camera's all the way in the corner of the room. He flicks it like this, and magically lands perfectly over the camera. Yo, watch that again. Oh my God. It's so good. He's like, boop, boop, and he's making a perfect shot.
Oh, that's true.
I love it. I love this film so much, man.
Yeah. I think one of the other things is like when he and Ellie are like down and they're like moving around the boxes, and they're like it's like one of those things where like you've got all the people, all the like the people in the middle, and everybody's doing like their shit, getting ready for this like big moment, right? And they're like creeping around the boxes. Like I remember like I always think about like you know, I'm not very good at like sneaky video games and stuff, but that's what it reminded me of, was like a video game where you're like trying to move through like a boss level and you're like hiding to like get out. And then I think like, is it right after that, I think is when he like calls his wife again. But like, I just thought that segment was really cute, because it was like they're together and they're like, oh, we're going to like solve this mystery like the Scoobies, right? And they're like going through these big ass crates surrounded by danger that they don't know anything about yet. It's just a very like ironic kind of like scene, but I thought that was really funny. Like later when everything is like revealed and it's just like it sets a different tone for thinking about them going through all those boxes and stuff. I just thought it was really funny.
What stands out to me during that scene is when he took the rack with all the masks on it, and they're behind it and they're slowly wheeling it across. And while Cochran's ready to talk and look at
I'm talking about? It's like Scooby Doo.
It is like Scooby Doo. Again, that didn't stand out until I saw it again. Like, wait a
Yeah, it's
minute.
very silly. Some of these things, but it didn't matter. It doesn't. The silly now doesn't like take
No,
away from it at
no, not at
all.
all,
But
not at all.
it's really it's a really good film, and I like the I love the ending. I like that like Cochran seems like impressed. He's like when he's like at the end, he's like,
Yeah,
huh? Like he's like
yeah.
impressed
Oh,
that
you
he's able
got
to
me.
do all of that. When he throws all the chips or the logos or whatever like onto the thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
like buzzes out or whatever. I think he's like, huh? Like
I want to know what are those made out of. I know it's like a lot of electrical components and
oh yeah.
wiring and stuff, motherboards, little tiny little chips. But
Mhm.
to cause insects and snakes and all types of creepy crawlers to come out of your freaking skull, like I want to know what the hell is that made out of, man?
If it had only happened to the people who worked for him, I would have thought it was like a Nightmare Before Christmas, like Oogie Boogie thing, where like that's what they were made of. Like,
Right,
but
right,
because it doesn't just happen to them, because we also see it with the kid, and
yeah.
it's like I don't know, I don't know either. Like I don't know where
Even the
that
lady
comes
when she
from.
get lasered the hole through her face and the insects came out of her mouth, like I know the insects weren't always there. Like, what the hell was going
Or
on?
are they? Are we really just host for a bunch of
Ooh,
bugs?
don't say that, man. I read this report once where there's thousands of little spiders inside of us. When we're sleeping, they crawl in through our nose and our
Oh
ears.
yeah,
I don't want to take
you're
up
like
a.
never
I'm all set.
That's where you draw the line. Well, I'm curious. So, what about those elements that you were just talking about a minute ago, like don't work though? Like you said,
Yeah,
something
what I
that's
don't.
like,
All right, thank you.
yeah,
So you mentioned it. The little chips at the end when they throw them over everybody, and they
yeah,
go off, and everyone just collapses, and they're
hmm
robots. Forget that. They just fall, and then Cochrane just gets the. I don't know what they turned him into. Like he just got beamed into something. Like I don't like
oh,
the lasers and all the lighting effects on that stuff. Like when it comes to horror, I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. I don't know what it
okay,
is. It's just it just even though like again we talked about there's robots, but again somebody can create an actual robot. We got robots right now,
hmm
so I could believe that. But the fact that the light show at the end and the way Cochran was taken out, I didn't like that. But I'm glad it didn't end there. The ending in this film is classic. So it's a nitpick, but it always bothered me. I can't
yeah,
just let it go. I got to bring it up. I was never a fan of like all like the lasers and just the
yeah,
way Cochran was taken out. Essentially, I like you mentioned the way his reaction was like, yeah, okay,
yeah.
good shit. I like
Worthy
that.
adversary.
I
Like,
like that.
yeah.
So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, it's gonna be on. But then he just boom, he's gone. Wait a minute. So that's it? Damn, that was pretty
He
easy.
was. It's almost like he failed his mission, so he like went back to
So
where
yeah,
he came from.
it's
It's
the
very
only
strange.
reason why it's not a perfect film because that bothers me to this day. I saw it again
Hmm
and it still bothers me. Like, oh
hmm
yeah, this is because the movie never took that turn until the very end. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
No, you're right.
Even though with the lady that got her face blown in, a laser effect did appear there as well. But that was okay. But only because it wasn't the climax. You built up to the ending, you get there, and that's how everything is like settled. But what saved it was the ending, though. The ending saved it for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it doesn't help that you've got this human that's like built up as this like he's like an ultra villain, he's like controlling the town, and it's like it's like, it's kind of like this is a terrible example, but it's also witches, which is kind of funny. It's kind of like the build up for Wizard of Oz, and then she like drops some water on her and
Yeah, yeah.
she's like gone. Like that's
I'm
all it took.
melting. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
like it's like a lot of it's a lot of build up
Yep.
to this big final moment, and then but I think probably I would say my guess would be the reason that it's so simple is because that really wasn't our big moment. Our big
Bingo.
moment is really like the
Bingo.
way
You
that
said
it
it.
actually
Yep.
ends.
I was just gonna say that because if the film would have ended there, I would have been, oh man,
I would feel very differently
I
about it.
hate
Yeah.
endings when it's a good film, but the ending's terrible. It just
Oh
turns me off completely. But it was not the end of the
god.
film.
Mm-mm.
We got the ending, and that was the
Perfect.
perfect way to end this film. I love that shit. No.
Yeah.
When do you think they got Ellie? Now Ellie, she was replaced by a robot version of herself, right? Or she wasn't always a robot, right? I want to just.
So I don't know, because I have feelings that go both ways.
Right.
I always thought it was very, not that these things I guess don't happen. I don't know, but I thought it was really easy for her to like get wrapped up in this person after her father's death.
Yes.
That happened very quickly, like very quickly.
And you don't catch that
so
after
like,
rewatches.
yeah, so it does kind of make you wonder, but they do make a point of showing her like strapped to a table.
Mhm.
So I don't know if like, I think you could probably theorize quite a few things. So another thing I kind of like mulled over was like, what if she had to like be reprogrammed because she was sent like because of her dad was like the you know, her dad is like our person that we start with in the beginning of the movie.
He's a catalyst.
Technically speaking, we don't ever have confirmation that that's her dad. Like she says, "Oh, that's my dad," but like there's never confirmation that they're actually related.
Yeah.
It's just her word. So for all we know, she was sent to follow up and see if he said anything to anybody. And then we find out that he did, in fact, say some things to the doctor, and the doctor's really unnerved. And he's kind of already looking around and asking questions, which then could mean Ellie turns up the charm, takes him on this little adventure to bring him there. But then I can't make her being strapped to the table make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless it was just to show him that, to not let him know, because they get away together. And I don't know, like, it to me, it feels like she was always like that, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel that way. Sometimes I don't.
It's true. It's true, because if you think about it, everything you said makes sense. And if we're gonna go on the defense of, okay, well, she wasn't a robot all the time, they turned her into that. But wow, they got some crazy technology. If they could make a robot that looks like her, acts like her to a T with that short amount of time, because I mean, holy shit, they didn't know who she was. How did they get the robot likeness, the thinking patterns, everything? Like, it was perfect. We're in that short amount of time, unless she was always a robot to begin with.
No,
so
you're right.
I love that theory, because there's no answers. You could watch the film, and like you mentioned, you point out all the little details that lead her towards being an android. But then there's stuff that leads you, no, she was a human that got turned into. It's weird. And I like the fact they never really delved too much into it.
Yeah. I think the questions that go unanswered, I think benefit the way you feel about the movie, as opposed to sometimes when you don't get answers, it like ruins it. I don't think that's the case here, because this is like, and Tasha has said this before, one of like the ways you can tell if like a horror movie is effective or not is like how often people still talk about it. I mean, we're talking about this movie.
Talking about it now.
Yeah. Like how what year is this? Yeah, 40 years later. I had to think about it. 40 years later. And we're still like, we still don't know. Like, we're still like talking about the things that we love about it, the things that, you know, we thought were really cool. And then like, but also still trying to figure out like, well, what was your take on this? What was your take on this? And I think that shows how effective this movie is, because quite honestly, no one does that I'm aware of for the other Halloween movies. Like,
no, that's what I mean, man. Like, I could tell you 4, 5, 6. It's a blur. I don't know. All I know is Daniel Harris shows up eventually in those, and that's it. I don't care for those movies. That's why when people said Halloween Ends was a travesty, we get that. We're not talking about that now. But when people say that's like the worst movie, I'm gonna be like, no, man. Like, there's some Halloween films that are bad. Like, Michael's Mask is horrible, and all those movies, for one thing, they never got that right past the first 2 films. But this film here is something special. Even to this day, we're talking about it. It has a cult following. This film is, if you talk to any horror fan, you mentioned Halloween 3, more chances than not, they're going to be like, yeah, I love that film, because they understand, they get it. They get what they were trying to do with it. And I give them credit for having the balls to do something so out of the box like this. Like, even those villains, you go from Michael Myers to a bunch of guys in suits. But the nice thing about this film, every time those guys appeared on screen, like out of nowhere, that classic John Carpenter, like, pew, that sound comes up. You're like, oh shit! Like I love that. It's just
yeah.
That alone, with this, they're stoic, no expression. You don't know, no motivations whatsoever with these guys. I love it, and it keeps you guessing from the beginning to the very end. And then you're like, holy shit, they're fucking robots. Okay,
because he's like, the first time we see it. is when he's like punching that guy and his like hands start going through like the material,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like and he's like pulling his hands out, and he's
Yeah.
just like, and it's that part was kind of funny too, because you kind of see this look on the doctor's face, like, of course, like
Yeah.
he looks like he's just so over it. He's like, and now you're gonna take me away. Great, like
Yeah.
so.
And they don't beat you over the head with it. They never go into this heavy exposition about
No.
why they created robots, or they never said robots. They never said that word once. Everything's told through actions in this film, and I love that. I love that so
Yeah.
much.
No, I love it too. I think this is a great movie. I think that I do think it's interesting now how many people say they like it, because I feel like that hasn't always been the case.
Mm-mm.
I felt like this was
No.
like the redheaded stepchild of like the
Redheaded
Halloween franchise.
stepchild. That's
Everyone
the
was
word
like,
I was looking for earlier. Thank you. That was driving me crazy. Redheaded stepchild.
yeah, because
That's
they
right.
just treat it like this huge outcast. But it just
Mm-hmm.
goes to show like the film is so unique and it has so much creativity. And I'm telling you, like, so and this is all I'm gonna say about Halloween Ends. When I got through the opening scene of Halloween Ends and the title card came up and it was that blue and that font, I was like, what
Yes.
is happening right now?
I think me and you among our circle are the
Yeah.
only two that caught that. Like,
I was just like, oh, this is gonna be something different.
they
Like I
knew, they
knew.
knew. But I don't know. The difference with this film is, like, again, there's no Michael, so there's nothing.
Yeah, right.
People
No, for sure.
hated this film originally because there's no Michael. But
Yeah.
on the surface, if this was just a regular horror film, people would have probably liked it more now.
I
than what they
agree.
do. Because people got, oh, that movie sucked. There's no Michael Myers. But how about the movie? What did you think about it? I don't care about it. There's no Michael Myers. No, but what do you think about the movie? I don't care for it. There's no Michael Myers. Just watch the movie without thinking of Michael, and you probably would come away from it feeling more appreciative.
And small town horror stuff like this is really always popular. Everything always happens in small towns or whatever. And I think like okay, I know it would have been risky to continue on this anthology path that was
Right.
originally intended for the franchise to begin with.
I agree.
But I think we would have like some really bomb ass stuff out if like they had gone that path. And I don't know what the future holds, obviously, for the franchise, but I'm really hoping that right now they're really reconsidering.
Halloween 3, I would finish it with, like, this film here. Man, it's just so much cool stuff. The amazing title sequence. Tom Atkins was great. Cochran was a good villain. I wish his ending was a little bit better, but I enjoyed it. The trademark Carpenter music and the bad guys win at the end. Love that shit. So yeah.
Yeah, super
recommend
good
this
film. I do recommend this one for sure.
Yep. I have to get all the. I don't. I don't have any merchandise from this film. I can't believe I don't. Nothing.
There's not much
Yeah,
that you can get.
They
There's only a
have
few
the three
things.
kids. There's a figure set with the three kids wearing
With
the
all
Halloween
masks,
mask. Yeah. But that's it.
Other than shirts,
You know
Cavity
what? It
Colors
makes sense.
has shirts and joggers and sweatshirts and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Who wants to have a figure of one of the guys in the suits? I don't want that.
No, I don't want that either.
I hear you. So yeah, thank you for bringing this up and not making me, but you know what I mean. Like,
I was gonna say, geez.
no, I don't.
You could have said no.
That came off wrong. That's not what I meant. But giving me a reason to go back and revisit this classic.
Yeah.
Because this movie here, I loved it back then. I love it even more now.
Yeah, you were the first person I thought of because I don't know anybody else that speaks as highly of it as I do. You're like the only person. So I was like, yeah, I'll ask and see if he wants to do this one. And then I kind of decided last minute it was going to go out on Halloween because these are normally go out on Saturday, but I'm doing Trick or Treat for this Saturday. And I was like, this has to go out. And I was like, Halloween is Monday. I don't have an episode. I was like, fuck it. It'll just be a bonus episode to go out on Halloween.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so that's our thoughts on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Silver Shamrock.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming. This was fun as always.
Thank you. Yeah, I love being here. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'll put their stuff in the description, like always, for the episode. Happy fucking Halloween, you guys.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, enjoy your day, your night. Have a great time. Be careful.
But remember, there's rules. Halloween has rules. So if you don't know the rules, watch Trick or Treat. You'll know.
Don't pull out your candle and your jack-o'-lanterns.
Check your candy, kids.
Check your candy. Yes. Okay. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
bye.